Okay, moving on from the last video where we looked at the line of action and how that line of action helped us to give a personality to the character. We're now going to look at a different technique, and this one is going to involve the use of silhouettes rather than the lines that we were using in order to build up the framework for our stickman. So this is going to just work on a very different brush which we will create. So first of all, you notice before we were just using the pencil tool which gave us these nice lines, but now we're going to use a paintbrush to create our silhouettes. But this default paintbrush is a little bit boring. It's very one-dimensional in terms of I'm getting a little bit of pressure sensitivity on there, but not too much. So I need to change this brush around a little bit to make it work for me a little bit better. So to do that, in this program, and whichever program you will be using, I'm sure you will have some kind of method by which you can change and customize brushes on there. But in this program I'm going to create a new brush, and I'm going to base it on my current brush, which is this one here, and say create. And then when it's created the brush, as it has done down here, double click on that brush and you can see the basic default settings for it. So what I'll do is I'll start to change the way this pen works with the pressure that I put on it. So for a very light pen pressure, then the size will be very low, and with heavy pressure on my pen I want it to grow quite thick in the middle and give me that variation. And I can go right the way up there, but I'm going to just sort of pitch it around about the 50 mark. And also I can play around with the opacity due to the with the effect of the pressure on there as well. I'm going to leave this as it is, well, just put it up to the maximum and turn on the advanced option down here and go down to where it says brush edges, and I'm just going to make this one a hard edge on it. And that's all there is to it. There's a lot more options on there and a lot more flexibility that I've got with it. And then once I've done that, I can test this brush out, and you can see that very light pressure I get this really thin line, and then I press, and I get this really thick one. So I've got quite a lot of variation based on the pressure of my stylus on the pad. Okay, let's delete that one because I don't really need that one. I was just showing you that one. And I've got a couple here which I've built previously. The only one I'm going to focus on though is this one here, which is the same brush really, just slight variations in those settings which we just saw. So you can see it reacts much in the same way as the other one that we made. And this is going to be used to create my silhouettes. So a silhouette is very useful for us because we eliminate detail completely, and we are just relying on the shapes to give us an indication of form, and it's a very good way of generating ideas. And it's a technique I use not only just with this solid black brush, but with different variations, and we saw variations of those earlier with the sketches that we ran through very quickly. So let's delete this one now, and let's take a look at creating some ideas with this. Now let's start from where we left off with the other one, and we were looking at those three different characters: standard, humanoid, a heavy humanoid, and a rather thin humanoid. So let's do the same but with this brush. So let's start off, and we'll do the same thing with the head, and this time instead of constructing the body as I did before with those building blocks, you can see with the way I'm doing this is I'm just creating rather squiggly lines to create this one. And it's probably a little bit faster and more, there's more shape in this, and more, it's got a much more organic feel to it, and I can come in here and start to modify this quite nicely. Okay, let's go and do another one. Again, these are just really rough. I'm not really interested. Let's do this heavy guy. Let's bring down these legs. Let's make his legs rather thin. And let's do another one of that thin guy. Make him a bit taller. There's a slightly different angle on this one, I think. Looks as if it's from the side, maybe. Got some baggy trousers on. Okay, so you can see here that the technique that I was using, and let me just point this out down here, when I was just sketching that around about this area down here, I started to struggle because one of my lines was a little bit off, and so I tried to make something of it very quickly, just to fill that area in, and straight away I thought of like baggy trousers and things. But the point is that I didn't stop. I didn't think, oh, I've made a mistake. I just carried on and just tried to make something of it, because at that stage I can think, okay, well, I can archive this easily and have another go at it. But there may have been elements in here, if I'd have just deleted it, that I would have lost. Maybe this face here, for example, the face I quite like. So maybe that was something that I would, if I'd have just deleted it, I'd have lost forever. So now I've got this, I can shrink it down and use that as a base to move on. Right, let's choose the same brush again, and let's do more cartoony versions. So remember, before we use this large head, and again I'm scrubbing with the brush here and using this now to build up some volume. Again, let's try again. You can see here, just on that mark that I made, I was slightly too heavy with the pressure on the brush, and it gave me a rather horrible result. But okay, it doesn't work all the time, and sometimes you won't get the results that you expect. But there will be other times when you're doing this when you will get something, what's called a happy mistake, and those are the priceless ones, because and it's being able to recognize those and then come up and start to work on that a little bit more. This one I'm doing now it's coming a little bit better, kind of getting an idea for a little alien creature here. Maybe if I change that head shape a little bit, maybe you can see that. And the reason that this one works is because of this part here, this gap. It's odd, and it's because we don't know what aliens really look like. We've just got various reports about what they look like and people's descriptions of them. We've got a little bit of license to kind of interpret these in the way that we want to. So we could come in maybe with an eraser here, and this kind of distorted abdomen area. It's quite interesting. I'm just going to remove that little part away. Go back to the brush here and maybe just bring this arm down. Leave the other one. Don't want to mess up this section here. And we'll just say that the other arm is behind the back. And we can just put some, maybe try and make some fingers there. But that's enough. That's enough for now in terms of that alien creature. Let's try and do another one. Let's do something. Let's just move these out of the way. So it's being able to recognize and identify things which you find interesting when you're creating these shapes. Like I said here, this area here was an immediate, caught my eye as an interesting shape. So let's do like a heavy guy this time, and I'm going to start off with this head, and let's try a different technique with the brush here, and a little bit smoother rather than scrubbing the brush around. Let's move this around this way. Maybe I'll do it this way. Maybe I'll make him extremely large. And create these legs at the bottom down here. So it's a little bit weird over this side. Don't need to worry about the hand. Maybe just imply that the hand is resting on the stomach there. Okay, it's a bit strange. It's a little bit weird, but it's also interesting as well. And once I've got this, I can start to maybe play with the head a little bit more, and even just drop that there, and that gives me a different shape. Now I know that the chin of this character, let me just change to a white here. Now I know that the chin of the character must be somewhere down here, because if I just step back here, you can see that the chin must have been around here before, but as soon as I placed more ink down here, oops, let's change back to black, then that means that the chin was going into the body more, and therefore was obscured by the silhouette view. So at this time I can start to think, oh well, okay, then this is going to help me to, I don't need to worry about that now, but I kind of like the way that this character's going. So that's an interesting one as well. Let's do some more. Let's stick with the heavy guy. Sometimes I do work very small as well, this kind of size. Let's give him very powerful arms. Changing the size of the drawing as well, it does help. It does give variation, and there's enough information there just as a quick idea. Again, let's just do a couple of small ones. Now these aren't necessarily cartoony, they're a bit odd. This one I'm struggling with, mainly because it's just too extended here. It's a little bit too much. Let's see if I can save it. Chop the head off. No. Okay, maybe. Bringing it back now. That's getting a little bit more interesting now. Just purely as a shape. I don't have any idea what this character is, or the idea behind this character, but I can make something from that, I'm sure. Let's move that one out of the way over there. Carry on. Let's try and just change tact a little bit here, and let's do something back to the scrubbing technique, just moving it around, altering the pressure, seeing what comes. Again, I'm sticking to kind of humanoid-y types of characters here. But I've got no direction. I've not got any ideas about what I'm actually after at this point. So I've really just got the complete freedom at the moment to do whatever I like, or whatever sort of pops off the screen to me, and try and follow that. But at this stage I don't want to get into any kind of detail anyway. I'm just looking around and just moving the brush around and seeing what happens. Just going to keep going. And as you can see, sometimes it's really difficult to pinpoint, but the trick is just not to give up and keep moving with it. And it's good to see the fact that, you know, some of them just don't work, because when you're starting out doing this kind of thing, it can be a little bit off-putting when you just can't see anything, and you get really demotivated quickly because you can't see the things in the silhouettes, and that's normal. The trick is just to keep going and to keep pushing yourself with it, and you will start to see. Let's move this into a different direction now. Let's start to do some creatures. That's a really bad one. I'll still save it though. Just shrink it right down and move it out the way. And it was bad because it was, you know, it wasn't anything, it wasn't going anywhere, it wasn't interesting at all. It was too much of a recognizable shape, and it was a little bit kind of llama-ish, dog, and it doesn't work. What I was thinking of was just something a little bit more strange. Here we go. This is something a bit more interesting. Kind of like a creature here. This is its front leg here, and maybe a back leg going down there. Let's kind of identify that as a leg by just helping to visualize some sort of foot and then dropping this one back there. Okay, that's more interesting. You can see the difference straight away in this, that this one's just a lot more interesting. The neck is totally weird, but there's parts of this that I really like. So again, let's just drop this down. And the beauty of these is they don't have to be really large, because you can just, you can scale them up again and start to work on them and embellish them. You've not lost anything by reducing it down. It still maintains its appeal even at a smaller size, which is why when I was doing this character here, I could work on it quite small and then scale it up at a later time. So let's carry on with these type of things. Let's go around. These are kind of long-necked creatures, and one of the things I like about this is the it gives a roundness, and you're able to build up volume very easy. It's a little bit like clay in a way that you're building the volume up. Let's go back, keep going around. So I'm making kind of circly motions with this, and it's giving me some kind of tail on the end as well. A little bit more. If we've got two sets of these legs at the front, then this is probably a bulkier area here than at the back. Okay, let's take that one down. Still not quite as interesting as the other one. Again, let's make some more. Let's try and make something that's kind of a humanoid-y but character, but a combination of this with this, if you like. And as you do this, you can do that. You can sort of build up sorry, going quiet there. You can build up combinations of characters from things that you like and other ones, and kind of blend them into another character. What interests me here is this again, more so than what's going on down here. We can sort of do these eyes on the side. And this isn't taking, it isn't taking me long at all, and I've got quite a lot of information and ideas just based on that. But what I'm going to do for this one is I'm just going to go back to that point and scale that one down, and then copy and paste and put another one in right next to it. Because there's something I like about that, but I do like these eyes, big bug eyes as well on here. Just maybe work on this one as a variant of this one. Some weird feet on it there, but still. Just using the pen really lightly now, just to squiggle in some fingers. Okay, so there we've got an example of the silhouettes being used just to create very, very quick and organic shapes. Now, one other thing we can just look at here quickly is when you see me scrubbing the brush, let me give you an example of that. When I'm doing this and these circular movements here, and I'm building up, if you were to look, because it's very difficult for you as a viewer to see what I'm doing, but if I was to do this same action with the pencil tool, it would be something like this that you'd see me doing. The fact that the stroke is so thick that you can't really see when I'm the way that I'm building that up, but with this pencil tool activated, this is the kind of thing that I'm doing. These are the kind of strokes that I'm doing. Then pressing down and it's coming up like this, and then I'm going light, and then I'm pressing again and I'm getting that, but I'm building up this kind of volume here. And let's just use another brush here just to kind of show you where that volume is and how that would be how would that look. So this is the kind of thing that's going on, but it's all too dark for you to really see. But in my mind's eye, this is what I'm building. I'm building up these almost three-dimensional forms just by scrubbing the brush around with this silhouette brush, as I call it, and then I'm getting this volume in here. I'm just using these air brushes here just as a way to kind of visualize for you the forms that are being created. Like this. So that's what I'm seeing. This kind of volume is what I'm seeing here, even though it's just a black shape, it's just a solid black. This is the kind of thing here that I'm seeing. I'm seeing these kind of rounded, organic type volumes being created here and here on this character. And so what we'll do is we'll leave it there, and then we'll take a couple of these characters here and shapes, and we'll try and move them to the next stage.